Hi, this is Caroline from The Happy Sensitive, and I'm here with a video on a topic about empaths. And there's something I want to talk to you guys about that I have seen a lot of people get wrong online. And when I say get wrong, I mean that what people think is happening, what they assume is happening, is not what is actually happening. And I wouldn't even care as much about this if it wasn't for the fact that a lot of supposed empath teachers and healers also get this thing wrong. Okay, so what is this thing? Well, okay, first of all, empaths. What are empaths? Empaths are people who feel energy from others. They feel emotional energy from others. And this is really important. They absorb it. So they pull it in. Like actually, like it's pulled into their system. It ends up on top of them. They go into a room and there's suddenly an avalanche of energy that's on top of them. And there's a lot of talk right now about empaths, and there's a lot of people who self-identify as being empaths, even if there's actually something else going on for them, something that is still psychic, still energy related, but it's a different mechanism. Now, in my work, I've spent a lot of time identifying different mechanisms, not because I'm a mechanism freak per se, or maybe I am, but because I found in working with clients that if you don't understand the actual mechanism by which somebody is getting stressed and overwhelmed, if you don't understand what is actually causing what, then the tools you're going to give them are not going to work. So I found that in order to give people the right tools, I have to get very, very specific about what exactly is happening with them. Are they picking up on energy, or is it psychological? And if they're picking up on energy, by what mechanism is this happening? And there are actually more mechanisms than just empath, which is why and how this gets pretty sophisticated and pretty subtle and complicated, because in the end, it all kind of feels the same. So if you're sensitive to energy, chances are your experience is that energy is just coming at you. You walk into a room, there's all this energy on top of you. This is pretty much what everyone experiences, regardless of what is actually happening. Why is that? Well, when you don't know how something is happening and you don't recognize in the moment all the little things that are going on, then all you feel is the end result. And the end result is that you're getting splashed with all this energy from other people. So, your experience is that there's all this water, in the room, and it's hitting you in the face. Okay, so when people talk about empaths and energy sensitivity and feeling overwhelmed by energy, pretty much everyone who talks about this assumes that they're getting splashed by water. The water is thrown in their face. They're just minding their own business and they're just standing there doing nothing, and this energy comes at them. This is what pretty much everyone experiences. But here's what I found. The majority of people who feel overwhelmed in that way are actually not getting splashed. So what's going on for them? Well, what's actually happening is they think that they're just standing here minding their own business. Just like, burr, 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 I'm just standing here. But what's actually happening is here's all the emotional energy in the room. Okay. They think that what's happening is that they're standing here and that they get splashed. But what's actually happening is they're not standing here. They're diving in. They're jumping into the pool, they're jumping into the water, jumping into the energy, and then they're like, oh God, I'm so overwhelmed with all this energy. But it's because they're in the pool, okay? And this container could be somebody else's energy field. It could be a part of a space where there's a lot going on. But this is where all the emotional energy is. And instead of staying put and staying in their own location, they actually jump in and then they get overwhelmed. So why is this important? Okay, well, what happens a lot online is that people think, hey, I'm staying put and all this energy is coming at me, so I need protection. Okay, so what they do, and I'm just looking around for a little prop that I can use. Okay, so what they do is they're like, I need protection, so I'm going to wrap myself with a good shield to keep all this energy out. And then what do? They still jump into the pool with this energy shield on. So it's kind of like you have this extra special huge bathing suit, but then you keep jumping in the pool and you keep getting wet. You're like, oh, I need to add more layers. So you keep adding more layers until you can jump into the pool and not get wet. But guess what? If you don't jump, you don't get wet. So it's actually much more effective and much easier and much more accurate if you understand, oh, what if I'm getting wet because I'm jumping into things, I'm jumping into those spaces, I'm actually not staying put, and this is why I'm getting overwhelmed, this is why all this stuff feels like it's coming at me. But if I just stay here and I don't get into the water, I'm not going to get wet. So it's important to know, right? Because otherwise you keep adding layers, you keep jumping in, you're not really solving the problem. You may not feel the water anymore because by the time you have like 3 big coats around you and some plastic around you and you have like a hazmat suit on, by that point you don't feel anything anymore. But it's not actually addressing the real problem, which is that you may be going towards where the energy action is, and if you just stayed here, nothing, you wouldn't feel anything. Okay. Why am I so frustrated about this? Well, obviously, if somebody comes to me and they think they're overwhelmed, there's something going on, I check with them what is actually happening. And I've developed some tools and some ways to figure that out with people. But what I'm seeing happening online is that there's actually a lot of people who call themselves empaths. They're healers, they're teachers, they're teaching other people energy skills, but what they're really doing is they keep jumping into water. They keep jumping into pools. They keep jumping into energy from others. And this is actually a really bad habit because people who do this a lot are literally jumping out of their skin. I know you don't see it physically, but energetically, their focus is leaving their body. And they're leaving their body, they're going somewhere else, they're checking out other people, they're kind of flying around the room. And if somebody does this every once in a while, it's not a big problem. But if somebody does it a lot, it means they're not anchored in, they're not grounded in their own bodies. And this leads to all kinds of other problems down the road, like exhaustion, getting disconnected from their feelings, not really knowing what they want, what they need. So if people are thinking that they're doing one thing, they think they get splashed with water, but actually they're the ones who are leaving their body. And then they add all this protection to try to protect themselves against something they're doing to themselves. It really just masks the problem. And like I said, the reason I'm upset about this is because there's so many people out there who they call themselves empaths. They're not empaths. They think they're getting splashed, but they're actually the ones jumping into other people's energies. They're covering themselves with all kinds of shields and are doing all this kind of shielding stuff, which actually doesn't solve the problem and is not an accurate representation of what's going on with them. And they might feel better, but the bigger problem is that they're constantly jumping out of their bodies, basically. And this is not good. And then they teach other people to do this as well. So then you might have people who are actually empaths, and they are then taught to shield, which, okay, for some people this works, but I think if you're actually an empath, you actually absorb, there's deeper things going on that you need to address. The shielding will be a temporary measure at best. And there's all kinds of other reasons why shielding is not a great idea. I'm not going to go into that here. But the bigger problem is if somebody is actually not grounded well in their own body and they learn shielding and then they feel better and they think they solved the problem, there's this other problem that's not getting addressed at all. And they may never find out and they may never understand what is really causing their overwhelm and what is actually something much more important that they need to address, which is how to stay put in their own body. Okay, so that was my little rant. I really wanted to explain this difference to you, that you can actually feel overwhelmed by energy from others. You may think that you're just staying put, you're not doing anything, but it's possible that you are automatically, jumping into the water and you don't realize because it's so automatic and so quick. Stuff we do on the psychic levels are super, super quick. It's a matter, like a split second, you're here, then you're there. And so people have this habit, they don't know they're doing it. They don't realize they're doing it. They might find themselves distracted a lot by what other people are going through, but then they don't realize that it's not the distraction coming to them, it's them chasing after the distraction. And that's the problem that really needs to be solved for them to start feeling better, have more energy, know who they are, know what's going on with themselves, as in feeling their own stuff and not everyone else's. And that this, in the end, also really affects their own mojo, their own energy levels. If you're constantly not here, you're constantly somewhere else, it affects how your body functions and it affects how energized you feel and how empowered you feel. If you're not in your body, you don't have any power. You don't have any ability to make changes in your own life. And so you're going to feel less and less empowered. You're going to feel more and more dependent on other people. You're going to feel more and more like a victim, like everything's just happening to you, even though everything starts with that decision to, wait, how do I learn to stay here? So I'm not saying that empaths don't exist. Empaths definitely exist. There are definitely people who get splashed with water. They're saying here, they're getting splashed with water. But the percentage of people that have that going on is pretty small compared to the percentage of people who are actually actively leaving their body and actively moving around the space, even if they don't realize that they're doing this. And so this is why it's really important to know what exactly is going on with you. If you're sensitive to energy, where do you fall on the spectrum, and what are the tools that you need? Because if you don't get the right tools, it might work for a while, but you're actually not going to solve the bigger problem, and you might run into other problems down the road that then nobody can explain. Because if you get put into the wrong box, and you get put into the wrong box by people who also don't know that there's actually a few different really relevant boxes, you can get really stuck, and that's not good. So, unfortunately, I cannot change this. I cannot change all the healers and teachers out there who are doing something that I think is not helpful. And, who am I? I'm just this one person. But I can make a video about it, which is why I was doing that. If you have questions about sensitivity, about energy, and you think what I'm saying makes sense, you like my approach, you can always set up a clarity call with me. We can talk in person. I can get to know more about you, what's happening for you. I'll ask you questions. I can check things intuitively as well, so we can get to the bottom of what exactly is happening and what tools you need to feel better, to feel lighter, to feel more empowered, and to truly be yourself. All right. Thanks so much for listening. Bye-bye.